Have you ever said yes when you really wanted to say no,
Maybe you didn't have the time or the energy.
but you still said yes, and later you wondered why?
Today we're talking about something many people struggle with.
How to say no politely in English.
Hello everyone. Welcome back to Daily Lingua, the podcast that brings English to life in the most real, most relatable situations you can imagine. I'm James.
And I'm Maria. And if you're joining us for the first time today, hello! Welcome to the family. We are so happy you're here.
And if you've been with us for a while, you already know what this is. This is your daily dose of real English. Not textbook English, not formal, stiff, please repeat after the recording English.
Real English. The kind of English people actually use with friends or with colleagues, in coffee shops, in offices, in difficult moments, and funny moments, and everything in between.
Exactly. And today's episode, I have to say, might be one of the most personally useful episodes we've done.
I think so too, because today we're talking about something that almost everyone I know struggles with, in any language, not just English.
We're talking about how to say no politely, confidently, without feeling like a terrible person afterward.
Yes, without lying awake at 2 a.m. thinking, why did I agree to that?
We've all been there.
We have all been there. So, James, how have you been lately?
I've been pretty good, thanks. Busy week, but good. How about you?
Pretty good too. But something happened yesterday. A friend invited me to help her move to a new apartment. And guess what?
Let me guess. You said yes.
Of course I did. I said yes immediately, like, without even thinking. She called me, she said, "Maria, can you help me move on Saturday?" And I heard my own voice say, "Of course, I'd love to."
And then?
And then I hung up the phone and stood there in my kitchen thinking, why did I just say that?
That pause after you hang up. I know that pause so well.
You know the pause. It's like your body says yes, and your brain arrives 5 seconds too late going, "Excuse me, did anyone ask me?"
Exactly. Your brain shows up like, I wasn't consulted on this decision.
Exactly. So anyway, Saturday came and I was there, helping, carrying boxes. And while I was dragging this enormous box down 3 flights of stairs, I kept thinking, Maria, you should have turned that invitation down.
And the worst part, and I think our listeners will relate to this, is that you probably did it with a smile on your face.
A big smile. Happy to help. Meanwhile, my back is destroyed.
That is such a relatable image. And it's not that helping a friend is bad. Of course it isn't. But sometimes we say yes simply because saying no feels uncomfortable, not because we actually want to do the thing.
Exactly. And that is such an important distinction. There's a big difference between choosing to help someone because it genuinely makes you happy and saying yes because you're afraid of what happens if you say no.
Right. The first one gives you energy. The second one drains it.
So let's actually dig into this. Why is it so hard for so many people to say no?
That's such a good question. And I think there are a few different reasons, actually.
Let's go through them.
The first one, and I think this is the most common, is that we genuinely don't want to disappoint people. We care about the people in our lives. And when someone comes to us and asks for help, there's a part of us that wants to be the person who shows up for them.
Right. We want to be reliable. We want people to think of us as someone they can count on.
Which is a beautiful quality. But it becomes a problem when it stops being a choice and starts being a reflex. When you can't say no, even when you really need to.
That makes so much sense. What's the second reason?
The second one, I think, is social pressure. In a lot of cultures, and this is true in many different countries, not just one, saying no to someone is seen as rude. It's seen as rejection. So, from a very young age, we're trained to find a way to say yes.
Yes, even when you're a child. Do you want to eat your vegetables? And you say no, and the look you get.
The look. Yes. So we learn very early that no leads to conflict, and yes keeps the peace.
And we carry that into adulthood.
Completely. And the third reason, which I think is maybe the sneakiest one, is the guilt. That feeling you get right after you say no to someone, even if it was the right decision.
Oh, the guilt is real. I know that feeling so well. You say no, and for the next hour you're replaying the conversation going, did I sound mean? Were they upset? Should I have just said yes?
Yes. And sometimes you end up sending a follow-up message apologizing for saying no, which is, when you think about it, a little bit absurd.
It is. You're apologizing for having a limit.
Exactly. And that brings us to something really important that we want to talk about today. Let's ask our lovely listeners something first, though.
Yes. Have you ever said yes, even when you really wanted to say no? Maybe a friend asked for help. Maybe a colleague asked you to take on more work. Maybe your family asked you to commit to something you simply didn't have the time for.
Take a moment and think about it. How did you feel afterward?
And remember something important. Saying no is not rude. It is not selfish. It is not unkind. Sometimes saying no simply means you are setting boundaries.
And that is actually the perfect moment to introduce our word of the episode.
Today's word is boundary.
Boundary. B-O-U-N-D-A-R-Y. Boundary.
That is a powerful word.
It really is. So, technically, a boundary is a line, a physical line that marks the end of one space and the beginning of another, like the boundary between two countries or the boundary of a property.
But in everyday English, especially in conversations about relationships and mental health, it has a deeper meaning.
A boundary is like a gentle line you draw around your time, your energy, and your well-being. It protects something very important, your inner peace.
I love that. A boundary isn't about pushing people away. It's not about being cold or difficult. It's about protecting your inner peace so you don't feel overwhelmed.
You can think of it like this. Imagine your energy is a phone battery. You start the day at 100%. Every task, every commitment, every yes, it takes a little bit of that battery.
And if you say yes to everything without stopping, by 2 p.m., you're at 10%.
And you still have 6 hours left in the day.
That's such a good image. Setting a boundary is like having a charger. It lets you protect enough energy so you can actually show up for the things that matter most.
Exactly. But when you protect your energy, when you say no to things that drain you, you have more to give to the things and people that truly matter.
That is such a healthy way to think about it.
Okay, so we have our word, boundary. Now, let's have a little fun with an idiom.
Yes, there's a really funny idiom in English for people who say yes to everything.
When someone accepts too many responsibilities, more than they can actually handle, we say they bite off more than they can chew.
Bite off more than you can chew.
Let's break it down. Imagine you're eating a sandwich. A really big, beautiful sandwich. Layers of bread and cheese and vegetables and sauce.
James, why does this always sound like you're describing a real sandwich you want?
Because I am. I am always hungry on this podcast. But okay, imagine this massive sandwich. And instead of taking a small, sensible bite, you open your mouth as wide as possible and try to fit half the sandwich in at once.
And then you can't chew it. You can't even close your mouth.
Exactly. It's too much. And that's exactly what it means when we say someone bites off more than they can chew. They've taken on more than they can realistically handle.
You can use it to describe yourself. Like, I really bit off more than I could chew this month. I agreed to 3 projects at once, and now I'm completely overwhelmed.
And the lesson? Sometimes the best way to avoid biting off more than you can chew is learning how to say no before you take that bite.
That was beautifully put. All right, so we understand why saying no is hard. We have our word, boundary, and our idiom, bite off more than you can chew. Now, let's get practical.
Yes. How do we actually do it? How do you say no in English, politely, kindly, without burning any bridges?
In English, we often soften the message. Instead of saying no directly, which can sound quite blunt or even harsh, we add a gentle opening, something that cushions the no before the no actually arrives.
And some of the most common ways to do that are phrases like, I'm afraid, unfortunately, or I'd love to, but...
Let's look at why those work. I'm afraid. This one is interesting because it has nothing to do with actually being afraid of anything. It's just a very gentle, almost apologetic way to introduce disappointing news.
Right. I'm afraid I won't be able to make it. That sounds much softer than just, I'm not coming.
Exactly. Same information but completely different feeling.
Let's try a few together. Dear listeners, if you can, wherever you are right now, please repeat after us. Say it out loud.
I'd love to, but I have other plans.
Beautiful. Here's another one. I won't be able to make it this time, but maybe another time.
Great. Here's a shorter one that works really well in casual situations. Sounds nice, but I'm not available.
And one more that I use personally quite a lot. Thanks for thinking of me, but I can't.
Now, did you notice something? In every single one of those phrases, we never just say no and stop. We always include something warm, something that shows we appreciate the person even while we're declining.
Right. And that is the difference between saying no to someone and saying no to the request.
Oh, I love that distinction. Say that again?
You're not saying no to the person. You're saying no to the request. The person is still valued. The relationship is still intact. You're just unable to take on this specific thing at this specific time.
That is such a healthy reframe. Now, let's look at the workplace. Because saying no at work comes with its own set of complications, doesn't it?
It does. At work, there's hierarchy, performance, the fear of seeming lazy. Let's play out a scenario. Maria, you're my colleague. Hey Maria, could you stay late today and finish this report with me?
I'd love to help, but I'm working on another deadline today. I've already taken on quite a few tasks this week. Maybe tomorrow?
Yes, tomorrow works. Okay, let's look at what Maria did there. First, she didn't just say no and shut the conversation down. She gave a brief, honest reason.
And notice, I didn't give a huge, elaborate explanation. I didn't say, well, you see, on Monday I was given this project, and then Tuesday... No, just a short, honest reason.
That's so important. You don't owe anyone a detailed list of every single thing on your plate. A short, honest explanation is enough. And then, you offered an alternative. Maybe tomorrow?
Exactly. It shows I'm not avoiding work. I'm managing it.
There's also at capacity. That's a great one for emails. I'm currently at capacity, but could we revisit this next week?
At capacity. It's honest, professional, and valid.
Exactly. And if you'd like to practice these phrases more, don't forget we've prepared a free PDF for this episode.
Think of it as our shared notebook. You'll find all the phrases we used today, the word of the episode, and some space to write your own examples.
You can find the link in the description. Download it, print it, scribble all over it. It's yours. And hey, while you're there, if you found this episode helpful, hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. It really helps other English learners find the show.
Well, listeners, it looks like it's time for us to wrap up today's episode. But before we go, let's leave you with something to carry with you today.
Saying no doesn't make you rude.
It doesn't make you cold.
And it doesn't make you a bad person.
Sometimes, it simply means you are respecting your time, your energy, and your boundaries.
Remember, every no is protecting a yes somewhere else.
Choose your yeses wisely.
This is Daily Lingua.
Keep speaking.
Keep growing.
See you next episode.